Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephen Tyrone Cuffey. I'm one of the ambassadors of TBC. It's a pleasure to be with you all today for another broadcast meeting. As I was saying earlier before we got the ball rolling, next Monday, the 22nd, will be the last day for all broadcast meetings as well, for my broadcast meeting for our general population, as well as the weekly meetings. The TBC mass adoption meeting last day, according to our blog from our dear admin, will be on the 19th, okay, which is the end of the last Friday, I believe, of this week. All right. Now, folks, as I was pondering my mind, and actually I was driving through the city, and I was thinking of what would be a great topic for today. And I wanted to think of a topic that affected all of us, every soul of us in TBC, and many millions of people around the world. And it's something that we deal with all in our lives over and over and over again, okay? And that particular is a certain term or word. And you know what that is, folks? And it's going to be a little sensitive one for a lot of you. But that term is forgiveness. Forgiveness. I'm going to say it again. Forgiveness. Yes, forgiveness. Now, I'm going to say this to you. All of us have had to be forgiven for something, or forgive someone else. You may have been hurt by someone, something. You may have received something written, or you may have written something that hurt someone else. You could be hurt by any age group. Any age group. You may be hurt by something you see or hear on the radio or see on TV. You could hear things over and over again that just hurts your heart. Sometimes it just brings tears from your eyes. You know? And here, the Billion Coin folks, there have been times where we may have said something and didn't really mean to, but we actually hurt someone. And I'm not speaking from anything personal myself. When I was driving, this popped in my head. We talk about many things, but that's one thing that we haven't really talked a lot about. Now, our dear admin, I'm sure of all the things that he's brought up in all of our meetings and in the blog, I know that word has come up. But you know one thing? It's something that we all have to deal with during our lives, right? Well, when I did some search about that word forgiveness, I found a guy by the name of Robert Enright. His name is Robert Enright. And he came out with a great book. He did some really good work on this forgiveness. And what I'm going to do, because this is kind of a long article, I'm going to go through each section somewhat. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to read it all because it would take quite a long time, most of this time. And I want us to have a little discussion here a little bit. Okay? So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start to share my screen, and I'm going to go through this article. All right? And I still will be able to see people chiming in, coming in, and I will try to go ahead and admit you in here. Okay, let me share my screen here. I'm going to show possible a little 1 minute video. Hopefully I won't get in trouble with copyright, because it's not, I don't think it's really owned by anybody popular or anything like that, but I'm going to do that later. But I'm going to try to get this done first. Hold on, let me see here. It's something very, very true what this lady was saying. Hold on a minute. Share, let me do this. And all of you should see, and it says, The 8 keys of forgiveness. The 8 keys of forgiveness. Okay? I'm going to say that again. The 8 keys of forgiveness. It says forgiveness can be incredibly difficult. Robert Enright explains where to start. And it shows his little his book right here. And this was back in 2015. He says, when another person hurts us, it can upend our lives. Sometimes the hurt is very deep, such as when a spouse or a parent betrays our trust, or when we are victims of crime, or when we've been harshly bullied. Anyone who suffered a grievous hurt knows that when our inner world is badly disrupted, okay, it's difficult to concentrate on what? It's difficult to concentrate on anything that other than our turmoil or pain. When we hold on to hurt, we are emotionally and cognitively hobbled, and our relationships suffer. Forgiveness is a strong medicine for this. When life hits us hard, there is something as effective as forgiveness for healing deep wounds. I would not have spent, or he says this, I would not have spent the last 30 years of my life studying forgiveness if I were not convinced of this. So he spent a great deal of his life, Robert Enright, that is, you know, with forgiveness. Many people have misconceptions about forgiveness really, what forgiveness really means, as they may screw it. Others may want to forgive, but wonder whether or not they really truly can. Forgiveness does not necessarily come easy, but it's possible for many of us to achieve if we have the right tools and are willing to put it in the effort. He says below is an outline of how, it says this, it says below is an outline of the basic steps involved in following a path of forgiveness, adapted from my book, 8 Keys of Forgiveness. As you read through these steps, think about how you might adapt them to your own life. Number 1, and as I stated before, I'm not going to read everything under each one because it's so much of it, okay? But what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy and paste them and put it in our chat area for your own reading at your leisure. Just for the sake of time, okay? Okay. Let me make sure here, my computer. And let me say this too, folks. Hold on, let me just admit these people in here real quick, okay? Let me go back to the article. I'm sorry. It's got a lot of things I'm doing here, trying to admit people in, and because people are straggling in late. People are straggling in late. But that's okay, because I understand they may be attending other things here. Okay. All right. Let me see, go here, number 1. Number 1, it says, know what forgiveness is and why it matters, okay? Know what forgiveness is and why it matters. Forgiveness is is about goodness, about extending mercy to those who've harmed us, even if they don't deserve it. It is not about finding excuses for the offending person's behavior or pretending it didn't happen. Nor is there a quick formula for how. It says nor is there a quick formula you can follow. Forgiveness is a process with many steps that often proceeds in a non-linear fashion. But it's well worth the effort. Working on forgiveness can help us increase our self-esteem and give us a sense of inner strength and safety. It can it can reverse the lies that we often tell ourselves when someone has hurt us deeply. Lies like, I have defeated, and say, I am defeated, or I am not worthy. Forgiveness can heal us and allow us to move on in life with meaning and purpose. Forgiveness matters, and we will be its primary beneficiary. It says studies have shown that forgiving others produces strong psychological benefits for the one who forgives. It's been shown to decrease depression, anxiety, unhealthy anger, and symptoms of PTSD. But we don't just forgive to help ourselves. Forgiveness can lead to psychological healing, yes, but in its essence, it is not something about you or done for you. It is something to extend toward another person, because you recognize over time that it is the best response to the situation. Number 2, become forgivingly fit. It says to practice forgiveness it helps if you have worked on positively changing your inner world by learning to be what I call forgivingly fit. Just as you would start slowly with a new physical exercise routine, it helps if you build up your forgiving heart muscles slowly. Incorporating what? Incorporating regular workouts into your everyday life. If you start becoming more fit by making a commitment to do no harm, in other words, making a conscious effort not to talk disparagingly about those who hurt you. You don't have to say good things, but if you refrain from talking negatively, let me stop right there for a minute. Let me stop right there just for a minute. I'm just got to meet these people real quick. If you stop talking negatively, and how many times have we said negative things or negative something about even our dear admin for a fact, because you didn't agree with something he may have said. See, we got to be real careful, okay? Real careful. It will feed the more forgiving side of your mind and heart. Okay, I'm gonna just jump down to number 3. Address your inner pain. It is important to figure out who has hurt you and how. This may be obvious, but not every action that causes you suffering is unjust. For example, You don't need to forgive your child or your spouse for being imperfect. Even if their imperfections are inconvenient for you. In that interest, can you agree with that? Okay, it says here, to become clear, you can look carefully at the persons in your life, your parents, siblings, peers, spouse, co-workers, children, and even yourself, and rate how much they have hurt you. Perhaps they have exercised power over you and withheld love, or maybe they have physically harmed you. These hurts have contributed to your inner pain and need to be acknowledged. Doing this will give you an idea of who feels forgiveness in your life and provide a place to start. There are many forms of emotional pain, but the common forms are anxiety, depression, unhealthy anger, lack of trust, self-loathing, and low esteem. And all it says, and let me see, make sure I got this right here. An overhaul negative worldview, a lack of confidence in one's ability to change. All of these harms can be addressed by forgiveness. So it's important to identify the kind of pain you are suffering from and acknowledge it. The more hurt you have incurred, the more important it is to forgive, and at least for the purpose of experiencing emotional healing. I'm gonna go down to number 4. Develop a forgiving mind through empathy. It says to develop a forgiving mind through empathy. Scientists have studied what happens to the brain when we think about forgiving and have discovered that when people successfully imagine forgiving someone, okay, in it says here, if someone, it said, let me go here. It said, when people successfully imagine forgiving someone, they show increased activity in the neural circuits responsible for empathy. This tells us that empathy is connected to forgiveness and an important step in the process. Okay, let me see here. I'm gonna keep going down, folks. Number 5, find meaning in your suffering. It says find meaning in your suffering. When we suffer a great deal, it is important that we find meaning in what we have endured. Without seeing meaning, a person can lose a sense of purpose, which can lead to hopelessness and a despairing conclusion that there is no meaning to life itself. That doesn't mean we look for suffering in order to glow or to find goodness in another person's bad actions. Instead, we try to see how suffering can change us in a positive way. Even as one suffers, it's possible to develop short-term and sometimes long-range goals in life. Some people begin to think about how they can use their suffering to cope because they're being more resilient or brave. They may also realize that their suffering has altered and their perspective regarding that is important in life, changing their long-range goals for themselves. To find meaning is not to diminish your pain or to say, I just make the best of it, or all things happen for a reason. You may always take care to address the woodenness and all yourself and yourself, the woodenness in yourself and and to recognize the injustice of the experience of forgiving will be shallow. Go down to number 6. When forgiveness is hard, call upon other strengths. Forgiveness is always hard when we are dealing with deep injustices from others. He says here, I have known people who refuse to use the word forgiveness because it just makes them so angry. That's okay, he says. When all have our own timelessness, for when we can be merciful. But if you want to forgive and are finding it hard, it may help to call upon other resources. So I'm gonna keep going, folks, just for time's sake. And like I said before, I'm gonna copy this article and put it in the chat because it's something I think we should really go through and read. It's really worth it. Number 7 says, forgive yourself. Okay. And sometimes I'm gonna just say this just out loud here. Sometimes that's a very hard thing for some of us sometime in our lives. To sometimes even forgive ourselves for something we did wrong. It says here, most of us tend to be harder on ourselves than we are on others. And we struggle to love ourselves. It says here, if you're not feeling lovable because of your actions you've taken, you may need to work on self-forgiveness and offer to yourself what you offer to others who have hurt you, a sense of inherent worth despite your actions. If self-forgiveness is said in self-forgiveness, you honor yourself as a person, even if you are imperfect. If you've broken your personal standards in a serious way, there is a danger of sliding into self-loathing. When this happens, you may not take good care of yourself. You may overeat or oversleep and start smoking or engage in other forms of self-punishment. You need to recognize this and move toward self-compassion. Soften your heart towards yourself. Okay, let's go down to number 8. Develop a forgiving heart. Develop a forgiving heart. When we overcome suffering, we gain a more mature understanding of what it means to be humble, courageous, and loving in the world. It says here, we may move to create an atmosphere of forgiveness to our homes and workplaces to help others who've been harmed overcome their suffering, or to protect the communities from a cycle of hatred and violence. All of these choices have lightened the heart and bring joy to one's life. And folks, when I finish this, what I would like for us is just think in your mind something very simple. And I'm not asking you to get too personal with your life, but just click on and start raising your hand, and I'll call you one by one, and talk about something that hurt you, or you may have hurt someone and didn't mean, whatever it could have been, something simple. Something could have happened here in TBC that didn't go right for you, in terms of you hurting it or someone hurt you. Think about this as I'm going through this, because I would like to hear just a few of you all on this subject matter, forgiveness, okay? And I guess by now, a lot of you probably already know what the key word is, okay? Because I've seen it here several times in this article. Okay. Some people may believe that love for another who harms you is not possible. But I've found that many people who forgive eventually find a way to open their hearts. Even if you shed bitterness and put love in its place, and then repeat this with many, many other people, you become free to love more widely and deeply. This kind of transformation can create a legacy of love that may live on long after you're gone. Folks, 8 keys. Eight keys to forgiveness. So I guess you know what the key word is, right? There it is. Highlight it. Keyword, forgiveness for this broadcast meeting. Forgiveness, that's the key word. And that F, by the way, doesn't have to be capitalized in your Comcast back office. All small case letters, forgiveness. That is your keyword to get credit for this broadcast meeting. Okay? Now, forgiveness is the key word. Okay? Now I know this I know this word can be a little sensitive for some of us here. Okay? To some extent. But Mr. Robert Enright does a fine job with this subject matter. And said he spent the last 30 years of his life studying this forgiveness. Okay? All right, now, okay, let me stop screen sharing for a minute. All right, folks. I see my fellow ambassador, Mr. Mbeh. I tell you, Mbeh, you can unmute yourself if you can, Mbeh. This word forgiveness, Mbeh, is one word may says it may be a little sensitive, but it's something, as I stated before, as I read this article, it's something that each and every one of us deal with in our lives. And it's all about how we deal with forgiveness, folks. It could be in our household. It could be in your community. It could be even in your church. It could be in your workplace. You may have hurt your little child. Someone may have wrote you a letter and had some really hurtful things in that letter. It could be anything. It could be anything in your life that it could be so many things that could happen. So what I'm gonna start with my fellow ambassador. I know you could probably think of many situations in your life where you've been hurt. I'm not saying you went out to intentionally hurt anyone, but that person may have thought you hurt them. But talk about something, even if something could have happened here in TBC, that someone said something to you that hurts your feelings to some extent, but they really didn't mean, you know, it may not be TBC related. It could be anything that has happened in the past week, past month, or this year.
Right.
You know anything, you can tell me, I'm not asking anyone to be too personal with their life. Without being too personal, if you don't feel comfortable with that, just tell me anything that hurt you, or how did you deal with it?
Right. Hello, Steve, and good afternoon. Good morning to the rest of the leaders, and welcome. Thank you, Steve, for giving me this opportunity. Mm-hmm. I think this is a very perfect message at this time of the year. You know, mm-hmm. We are gradually going to the end of the year, and a lot of things has happened, you know, mm-hmm. Both in our families, the people closer to us, and of course, even TBC. This is another family. Mm-hmm. Talking about forgiveness at this point in time is very, very important. We have a lot of people that might have hurt us personally. Yes, mm-hmm. I must say I have many, but I try so hard to forgive them, mm-hmm. because I have somebody once told me that when you don't forgive somebody, it can lead to cancer, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you don't want to keep a lot of grudges that much. Sometimes I just forgive somebody and I avoid you. Yeah, you know, can I forgive you and I just avoid you? Talking about in our community here, I tell you, I have had great people, like great leaders that we do respect in this community, mm-hmm. and that they have suddenly become negative, mm-hmm. writing a lot of things, like writing personal attack to me personally. I'm not talking about someone else, but to me, mm-hmm. personally, sending me personal message as an attack. Like, you know, the kind of people that you have high respect for them, that you can't even imagine that they can do some kind of write-ups, but you find yourself, they are the one doing it. Mm-hmm. What do? You just have to forgive them. Just have to, like, this one, they don't know what they are doing, because I think that forgiveness sometimes have to do with you as a person. You know, if you don't actually forgive, you are not actually hurting the person too, you are hurting your own self. So you look at the very big question, do you want to keep hurting yourself? Steve, I tell you, I used to be very, very unforgiving. Now I can say I'm very calm. I think when I was younger, there was a time I made like 2 years, I did not talk to my dad, like my father. Mm-hmm. I didn't talk to him. So I used to be very, very hard. Like, if I'm mad with you, I am mad with you. I'm like, honestly, I don't pretend. I am either with you, I am not with you. Mm-hmm. But mm-hmm. as time passes, you know, we get married, we become more relaxed. You learn to forgive, and you become a father. You become the people person. You have to forgive more. If not, you'll find yourself having cancer in the nearest future.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That is it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, when sometimes when you don't forgive, you next thing you know, you're sick. You're sick with a disease. You know, I had a discussion with you know, when my mother was was in my life. You know, she's passed on. Y'all know that, but you know, when I should take her to get these surgeries, and I had a discussion with this doctor one time, this surgeon, and I was and when I asked him, when you're not good to yourself or you don't forgive people, sometimes I wonder, do you open yourself up to these quote viruses, these diseases, all these things? And as your resistance go down, your physiological resistance go down, you open the door for these things to come into your body. when you're not good to yourself or good to people, you know, these things happen to you. And he said, you know one thing, you're exactly right about that. I've had discussions with people about these kinds of things. You know, you've seen people throughout your life. You may have been in school during that time, and you see this guy, these people trying to bully you. You know, just terrible how they behave. It seems like outright to hurt you. But it's all about how you deal with those things. You know when people act a certain way, Mbeh, and they act in a negative way. You know one thing that comes in my mind, folks. You know what? One of the things that come in my mind is I'd be wondering about that person. Perhaps there's something in that person's life that's causing him or her to behave that way. You know?
Yeah.
You know, we don't know whether that person has lost their mother, their father, their child, someone very important in their life. We don't know what has happened, but that person just may not be dealing with it properly from what we see, you know. So, and you be so angry with that person, upset with that person. Why are you saying these things? Why are you behaving this way?
Right.
But we don't know what that person is going through. You know? So I know, folks, I know this is a little sensitive for us, okay? But it's something that sometimes we need to talk about, some things that are sensitive to us here in the Billion Corn, folks. Everything is not all rosy, okay? Everybody know this. Everything's not going so smoothly all the time here in TBC.
It's a rough ride.
When Mbeh gets on, when he's doing his on Fridays, when he's doing our master meeting, and I've seen him very firm with you all. He's not trying to break you down. He's trying to drive a strong point of what we should be doing right here and now.
Correct.
Mbeh, I love when you get that way, brother. I love it. One time I thought about, I said, no, that would be inappropriate. Try to interrupt you and say, right on. Because that's what I be doing. That's what I be doing when I'm listening to you. I say, brother, get it. Go, drive it. Because I've seen some people in the chat. I watch the chat sometime when you're firm, and I'm seeing what they're saying. Some of them are taking it out of context. They're not getting the point.
Right.
You know, and then the nice thing what you do, Mbeh, but I love when you do this. You come back later and say it's not to harm anything or harm anyone. You do a great way of explaining yourself, and then everybody's okay. And then you see the ones that said something a little negative. Then they see they change their chat where they're saying to a positive way. Because people are like, sometimes people are like sponges. They absorb every living thing you say to them. So folks, forgiveness is so important in our lives. Here in TBC, folks, when we are human. See, we are human, folks. Remember that. We got to respect each other. Oh gosh, that's a key word in TBC, isn't it? Love and respect.
Right.
We have talked about love, we have talked about respect, but it's something that we all got to deal with here in our lives, and that's forgiveness. Okay? Now let me ask anyone else here. Is anyone else want to to express a situation they dealt with here. And like I said, you don't have to be outwardly personal. Anyone here? Oh, here's a person here. Cryptovic. Let me hold on, let me do this. Hold on, let me just. You could, okay. Is that Cryptovic?
Yes. Ambassador, good afternoon.
Good. I know that this word is important to you, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone at the meeting. It's a very interesting thing to listen to your monologue this afternoon here in Nigeria. Forgiving is a very important aspect of human life. In fact, if you want to be happy and joyous yourself as a person, as an individual, you must cultivate that attitude to forgive. If you do not forgive, most of the times you find yourself just running without an intention of where you are going to. So forgiveness is what makes you joyful and even helps others to attract themselves or attach themselves to your personality. Because when others see that you forgive a lot and that you don't count, so many times you've been offended and all of that. A lot of find it to be attached to. A kind of Platon call anyone if you think that someone has offended you, if you think you've you had a misunderstanding with someone, if you think there is any way some of the things being done in TBC does not align to what you want or think or what you expected it to be, your desire or your action must not be to quit. It must not be like that. You should be able to forgive, let things go, have a major aspect of thinking about what TBC is and what even the community itself has been achieving for a very long time. So when you combine all of this together, you see that you'll be motivated not only to forgive, but to work entirely with the community, because the community in TBC is a wonderful community. At times when you listen to the admin speak, and even Ambassador himself, when you listen to him speak, in fact, both of you now, you see that there's a lot of wisdom, a lot of things you can gain from listening to such speeches. And I think it is a very nice thing we make ourselves available so that we can tap from all of these monologues. So I want to thank you so much. To me, I know I always try to forgive. I think this monologue will also help me to see more need to forgive more. That's what is going to help me to do. So I want to appreciate you so much for taking time to call out this monologue and use it for teaching us this afternoon. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your words. Thank you. I tell you, yeah, that word forgiveness, folks, is a powerful word, and it affects each and every one of us in our lives. And it's something that we should address from time to time. And it's something that it's like a work in progress,
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Okay. I think I saw Gina's hand. I don't know. Yeah. Let's see.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing, Gina?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
So yeah, what you were saying about unforgiveness and correlation with sickness and disease, illness, infirmities is been confirmed for generations upon generations. Not just forgiveness, but any negative emotion that you harbor, whether it's revenge, bitterness, anger, dissension, any of those things, the energy from them stays in your body until you release it, until you just let it go and release it. And by that being in your body, it creates also blocks. And those blocks can actually keep you from being successful and prosperous and happy and healthy and wealthy. So those things are very, very true, that you can't, hold on to forgiveness. You can't hold on to forgiving. You have to release it. You have to let that go. You have to forgive. It doesn't mean necessarily because you forgive that person that you have to continue to have them in your life. If they continue to do things over and over, that hurt you, but you do have to be forgiving. And there's another point too, for believers, it says very clearly, if you do not forgive, I cannot forgive you. So that's another thing too. The Father is not, if you're holding on to all this unforgiveness, then how's he going to be able to forgive you? But there's another forgiveness that is the hardest forgiveness in that there is. And that is the forgiveness of one's own self.
That's right. It's so true.
Hardest forgiveness on the face of the earth, in my personal opinion, is being able to forgive yourself. But you have to. But it is one of the hardest forgivenesses that there is. It really is. To forgive yourself for things that you've messed up on, or you did or didn't do, or said or didn't say. That's a hard forgiveness right there. And I have found that sometimes when you forgive, even though you've forgiven, it doesn't take away being angry with yourself. You still have to work on that part. But I'll just say that what you're saying is so true, and there's been so many studies on it. How it affects our health, our bodies. Even the study they did with the water, showing love to water or hate to water. We got to remember, we're 75% fluids. So if those negativities can affect the water that way, making those ugly crystals instead of beautiful crystals, and imagine what that does to our bodies, our human existence, our beings. So yeah, it's pretty powerful.
That's right. You're very right about what you said, because not being true to yourself, not like you just saying, forgiving yourself is extremely hard sometimes, folks.
Yes, indeed, it is.
Extremely
it's hard. And then there's another thing that people don't realize too, is see, our negative feelings and our negative emotions, everything, don't just affect us.
That's right.
We are all connected. Everything in this world is all connected. We are all connected. I'm connected to you. I'm connected to Mbeh, clean over, in Africa. We are all connected, and everything is energy, and energy is constantly moving. And if you have all of this, then this energy, this negativity you have in you actually has this ripple effect where it affects everything. The people around you, even clean across, they have proven that it even affects people on the other side of the world. And I know that sounds bizarre and crazy and hard to believe, but they have proven this, scientifically proven this, that negativity, negative things affects the whole world. That, it all compounds. And it's like the butterfly. They did this thing where they found out that the wings of a butterfly, that what it does actually affects things hundreds of miles away. And it's the same concept, that the negativity, it goes out, the energy goes out, and it affects so much more than just ourselves.
It does that. That's why we got to be real careful about, folks, we got to be real careful about that word forgive. We got to recognize it, that it's very important to us, and how we deal with people and things. Thank you, Jana, so much. It's something I want to show real quickly, folks. It's only about, what, 1 minute. I know that we're getting close to the end of our meeting. This was way a longer meeting, folks, but I really want it to be a good one for all of us. But I want to share my screen real, and I want y'all to listen because I know y'all gonna all agree with this lady, what she's saying. Okay, hold on a minute. Or at least I'll say most of it. I can't speak for everyone, but let me see here. Let me share my screen again. Sound, and I think it's right here. Here we go. And just turn your speaker up and listen real quick here. Then we're gonna get ready to end on this.
Forgiveness. It's a hard topic, one that tends to generate lots of questions, especially when we're faced with the hard decision of forgiving ourselves and others. And though we're familiar with those things, what is the forgiveness of sins? Well, in the Bible, we're told that all of humanity was separated from God due to sin, which is the evil and brokenness that we see in ourselves and the world around us. And the punishment for sin is death. But instead of leaving us to suffer, God sent his son, Jesus, to die the death that we deserved. The price for our sins was paid for by God himself through his son, Jesus. Simply put, the forgiveness of sin is God pouring his wrath upon Jesus, who bore the sins of the entire world, making a way for us to be saved by grace. Now, this is good news, but what about your sin? Can God forgive you for the things that you've done? To put it simply, yes. The Bible says that if we confess our sins, that he is faithful and just and will forgive us. And today, you can experience that forgiveness yourself. God is inviting you into a relationship with him, one that'll change the course of your life forever. One that proves over and over again that no matter how much you mess up or how far you run, God will always be there for you. And we want to give you that opportunity. If you still have questions about forgiveness or about how to have a relationship with this merciful God who loves you, click to get connected to someone who would love to talk with you. Remember, in Christ, you can walk in the freedom of forgiveness. We look forward to connecting with you soon.
Okay, I'm sure that touched all of you, okay? All right, here we go, folks. At the end of our meeting here, let's go out all saying, let's forgive each and every one of us in our lives and here in TBC. Let's forgive each and one of us in our lives and here in TBC.
Help us, Lord.
Let's forgive everyone and everyone
Let's
here in our
forgive
lives and in
everyone.
TBC.
Let's forgive everyone in our lives.
Help us, Lord.
Okay, okay. Y'all have a great day.
Ay, ano yan? Gabi na, magigising si tatay niyo.
Let's forgive everyone in life.